Hi, this is Quinn from Reformation Acres. Today I'm going to take you on a quick walkthrough of my Homestead Management Printables that are now available for 2017 and show you how you can use them on your homestead and garden to help you keep more efficient and organized, and use them as your brain from year to year so that you don't have to remember all the little details that it takes to run your farm. The way that I like to set my binder up is to have a main homestead management binder that I only access once a month and heavily at the end of the year as I'm recording everything. I have a main management binder that I use, and I'll keep everything in there from homeschooling to finances to my schedules and the homesteading stuff that is pertinent to this particular month. That way I don't have so many binders that I'm working on all the time. I just have the one binder that I use all the time, and then this one has all of my records in it. And in the front of this one, I like to keep the cost analysis for each. I'll save all the sheets from each year in a slip cover, and I like to keep the cost analysis right in front so that I can see which area we did better on and which areas we improved in. For example, here we've got milk, and we came out at $3.06 a gallon for raw milk, which is pretty good, and it would cost a lot more if you were buying into a raw milk herd share. And then the year before, though, we were at $3.77 a gallon, so I see that we did better on milk, and so that helps me to reference what did we do here that allowed us to produce milk more efficiently on the farm. So I've included a new this year is a cover sheet. I haven't had those in there before, but for now I'm going to take you through the actual printables and show you just real briefly. Obviously we haven't done 2017 yet, so I did a mock-up for each one of these to show you how you will be able to use these on your farm and homestead in 2017. Next are some planning tools that you could use for your garden in particular. Seed inventory. I always have a gallon bag or two full of leftover seeds that I keep in the freezer from year to year, and this helps me to know what's in that bag without having to keep rifling through them. I can just look at a glance, and it helps me make decisions about purchasing seeds for the next gardening season. This is new this year. It's an indoor seed starting record sheet, and it just kind of gives you an idea of what you're planting in the variety and your start date, how long it took to germinate, and the transplant date and any other notes. For example, here on the tomatoes, I took notes that I potted them up on 3/28 and 4/7. Or that the spinach, one variety had a higher germination rate than another variety. That could be very helpful to know. Next is a plant summary that you could use for each specific plant or variety that you're growing to help you know what sorts of challenges or that you're facing, or what you can do to replicate next year. For example, if you found that you used the bone meal when you're potting up in a transplant and that worked really well, you had great healthy tomatoes, now you know what you did. You can use this to record your yields if you want to do that for each specific one. You can just write them down at each harvest time and then tally it up. So your tomatoes, you got 37 pounds off those however many plants. I tend not to use, I personally don't use this part. I keep all my yields somewhere else and on a different sheet. And I really tried to incorporate a lot of variety so that your organization doesn't necessarily look like my organization, that you can use it for what best fits you and makes sense to you. I also added new this year some planning tools for cut flowers for annuals and perennials. So I know a lot of you guys like to do those too, of course. And then also there is a graph paper for designing your garden. And this is my favorite part of the whole printable section. This is a custom seed sowing schedule. I have one for herbs, one for the fall garden, and one for the spring garden. And what you do is, it's an Excel file, and so what you do is up here at the corner, you'll have your last frost date and your first frost date. You look that up online if you don't already know it, and you type that in, and then it will automatically fill in when you're supposed to start each type of plant. So you don't have to, it takes the guesswork out of it. You don't just sit there with a calendar and try to count back and figure it out and make the adjustments, and I've done it all for you. All you have to do is type that in and you are printed out and you're good to go. Are the Homestead and Garden calendars. I have 2 different ways of writing those out. If for whatever you prefer, they're the same. They have the same function. It's just a matter of whether you prefer to write it out this way and take more notes and record the weather, or if you like a calendar format. I wrote this out in a calendar format, and you can see that I used my 2016 one just as a guide. So I noted that I found cutworms in the greenhouse corn, and that we moved the layers over the old garlic patch so that they could, you know, drop their fertilizer right on it. And then I potted up the ginger that I was growing in the greenhouse this year. I transplanted some fall onions. This is in August. And then for some odd reason, our June bearing strawberries that we planted this year started bearing in August. So that was strange, and I made a note of that. You know, you could mark the weather if there's anything significant. So just those sorts of things help you to know the cause and effect of why things are going the way they are in your garden or on your homestead. So those are the calendars. I also have a home dairy calendar. I keep this on a clipboard on my fridge, so when we're straining milk in the morning, we can just go ahead and mark down our totals. If you see a jump in the totals, you can go ahead and write that if you notice that there's a reason for having more milk. Here we started adding in evening milkings because the calf was several weeks old, and we started to milk it at night instead of just in the mornings. And then we've got, you can mark heat watch so that you know on that day that you're to be looking for that. And that's just for home dairy. You can use that for goat or cows or whatever dairy animal. Now I'm going to show you how I use some of the scheduling tools inside the Homestead Management Printables. I have it broken down for annual, monthly, and weekly planning. The reason why I do this is because there are some tasks that are done on a fairly regular basis. And I think that cleaning out the chicken coop is a really great example. We do that quarterly, but sometimes we forget when was the last time we did it. So by using this, we just can build it right into our schedule and reference this to know when that needs to be done, when we did it last, and it makes it kind of mindless. So what I will do is I will take my annual schedule, and at the beginning of each month I will reference it and just get a framework of what needs to be happening each month. And I will fill out this month at a glance sheet and keep that with me for the month. And it is broken down into sowing, harvesting, preserving, household tasks, and barnyard tasks. And in August, the bulk of my work goes towards preserving the food that's growing in the garden. And we're also starting the fall garden, and that will help me remember what needs to be done each week. And it all works together to make sure that there's no task that's left undone or is done too late. For example, I think that the fall garden is a really good one because we just usually finish up planting mid-June, and so it feels like it's only been a few weeks since we got done planting the summer garden, and it's already time to start thinking about the fall, and it's 90 degrees outside, and just nobody's thinking about the cold weather. And so this helps me, this all works together to help me to remember that this is what I need to be doing. So I will take every week this information and make sure that this gets done, and put those into my weekly planner. A lot of this stuff stays the same from week to week, but it helps me to remember that I need to do it. This weekly planner it's my lifeline. I carry it with me everywhere. I scribble notes. Usually by the end of the week, the whole back is just filled with notes. But you can use the weekly planner to record your tasks that you need to do and then fill them in. It just kind of helps you, let you know what to do, and then arrange them. Or what I like to do is as the week goes by, I'll write in certain tasks that I notice that need to be done, that aren't necessarily part of the monthly or the yearly, and I'll write them in here, and then this helps me fill out the list for next week, which I do every Saturday. I really depend on checklists to help me remember everything that needs to get done. For those of you who like to keep it simple, there's just a basic outdoor to-do checklist. Then there's not quite so much organization. Just try to get a little something there for all types of people. The next section is my least favorite, expenses, but it's the most useful. And I have an expense sheet included for just about everything I could think of: dairy cows, laying hens, rabbits, hogs, you name it, honeybees, turkeys. I added turkeys and ducks this year. And so the way that you use these is just as you make a purchase, you record the date, you record the vendor and the product that you purchased, and the amount and the price. At the end of the year, if you choose to use this section instead of the main sheet, you can record, it's a generic with the pounds, but you record the quantity of pounds of feed, say for example on the dairy cow, and then that helps you, you bring the information over from your yields sheets, and you can calculate out what your price per gallon is, or with vegetables, your price per pound on vegetables. And yeah, so there's one in there for just about everything. And let's see, honeybee, cut flowers, that's new this year. So you take all that information, beef, cow, sheep. At the end of the year, you take that information that you have from your expense sheets and from your yield sheets that I'll talk about in a minute, and you enter them into a cost analysis. This is the thing that I showed you at the front of my binder that I love so much. So it's just at a glance what happened financially and with your yields, and you can see what you did each year and how productive your homestead's actually being. There is a homestead earnings sheet in case you have anything that you sold, and an expansion in case you added anything to your farm this year. Next are the yields sheets. These record the overall yields. I tend not to use it for the homestead. I use the cost analysis gives me the information that I need. But for the garden yields, this is really, really helpful to me. I love looking at this. So I can see butternut squash, I grew this many pounds this year, but last year I grew 95 pounds and I was able to do better. And so at the end of the year, you can use the second sheet for your current yield totals, compare it to your previous yield totals, and see your difference. And of course, we always want to see a plus sign, and that helps us to know where we're standing and the improvements that we should be making, or the ones that we've made and have been successful. Also on my fridge, I keep on a separate clipboard, I keep our laying hens egg tally, so that when the kids bring in the eggs, they can just mark it down. So I did a sample there, and then at the bottom you can mark the yields. At the end of the month, what I like to do, instead of keeping 12 sheets at the end of the year for every month, I like to record the final totals on a year-end tally. And then we keep this one sheet. It tells me every month. You can kind of see that the hens lay less in the winter time, and in the springtime they go crazy, and then they level off over the summer, and then mark the total. And then I just keep this one sheet of paper every year instead of keeping 12 sheets of paper. New this year, I have livestock healthcare records. It has a lot of information. I don't use all of it. We don't get too serious about our animals, but I know that many of you do, and so this is here in case you would like to use that. You could record the animal information, breeding records, physical observations, medical treatments that you administer. There's a second sheet for vaccinations, deworming, and production notes. Next in our production section is a home dairy production, and I use this page very much like I would the egg totals, the laying hen egg totals, where, you know, I record every month on the sheet, on the calendar, on the clipboard on the refrigerator. Then I transfer that information over so that I don't have to necessarily keep the calendars, but I can if I want to. And I usually choose to. But I like this because it helps me look at a glance without having to look at every single sheet of paper or every single calendar from throughout the year. It's just all right here, and I just jotted down some notes so we can see our total in gallons and pounds. You can mark the date fresh, and I didn't feel bothered to fill this in for example today. And then there's one for goats too. I have rabbit production records, which I did not fill out because we do not have any rabbits. And we also have honey and beekeeping records, which I did not fill out because we do not have bees, though I would like to. And then finally, we have an incubation chart. And this is more of a reminder to turn the eggs if you don't have an automatic turner. And it helps you to calculate when the chicks will be hatched. And so what you would do is on day 1, you would start with your dates and fill them in whatever day you start. And then you would cross it off. 7 a.m. I turned them. 12 p.m. I turned them. 5 p.m. I turned them. 10 p.m. I turned them. And then down here we've got the X's. This would be for turkeys or ducks. Up here for chicks, though, you know, you don't turn them those last few days so that they can get in position for hatching. And finally, we have a few inventory worksheets. I've got a food preservation one, a freezer inventory, which is so useful if you have a deep freeze in particular that, you know, is a chest. Because, I don't know, in our family, it just all gets dumped in there and you've got no idea what's down at the bottom. And we're always thinking we're out of something, and it turns out then we come up with, you know, 20 pounds of ground meat that we thought we were missing because it was buried under 10 chickens. And then one for the pantry, just to help you. This is kind of a worksheet as well as an inventory. It helps you know what you would like to put up and when you've met your goals, and if you've even exceeded your goals, if there's a surplus. And then with the freezer inventory, the food preservation too, it can help you let you know too the date that you ran out, how much you actually did use. So, you know, you can use the pantry one or the food preservation one. It just depends on you know, your preference. So that's I don't have all the calendar sheets in this stack, but you know, that's a substantial amount. There's no way that you're going to use all of these. I don't use all of these on our homestead, but they're there if you need them, if they would be beneficial to you, and hopefully they will help you be more organized and efficient, and that your homestead will run more and garden will yield abundantly and run more smoothly.